Good afternoon.
Mayor.
All righty. I'm sorry. I don't mind sitting. Don't unwrap. I'll sit.
Okay, saves me the trouble.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Darren, I'm switching.
I was expecting you to sit. Well, next time.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon again. We've got a few items to cover on the agenda. Getting them a little set up. So out before you right now is the Masonic Drive corridor that I wanted everybody to be able to see, and media wishes to take any pictures of and look at. It's more in the rendition of sort of what is today. There may be a little bit of what can be, but it would give people a good idea of what is. I think it's also interesting, while the scale, what's interesting is the scale of the mall. So I would ask you to take note of just how large a structure it is when you compare it to all of those other structures, which some of them are large. But I would remind everybody, I think that's all scaled, right? As to the size in all of the different parcels, but the heights are not scaled. So height is not scaled, but width and everything else, how it holds in the footprint is scaled. So you'll notice Weiss and Goldring across from there looks tall, when of course it's not a tall building. So the first thing is, on May 12, we're having an open house at the mall for Reignite. And so we invite citizens and anyone to go. You'll have 3 to 7 p.m. to walk through, to look at all of the things they'll have set up, to make your own community notes, what you'd want to see, what kind of projects you'd like to be there, leave your comments, thoughts, etc. And that will be on May the 12th, Tuesday. May the 12th, Tuesday, from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Alexandria Mall. So this is the Reignite program for the Masonic Drive corridor. And the question is, what's your vision? And so while we'll have a lot to suggest and we'll have more as things go out, this is an opportunity also for citizens to just weigh in, share any ideas for that future development. It's the whole of the corridor. It doesn't have to be limited to the mall at all. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but this is an open house and we would welcome any feedback, questions, and be part of shaping this vibrant and great future opportunity for that corridor. All right, so a little bit to cover today. We'll talk about a few different things that have occurred, but we'll try to stick with, it's going to be a lot about the Reignite plan. So the first thing is that I think in February or January, I gave some indicators about the state of economic indicators in the city using local data. We gave several different ways to look at it, from building permits to new buildings coming up, the types of buildings you'll see, growth in the corridor out on 28, those kinds of things. I would just again suggest that 2 indicators by 2 businesses that hold a whole lot of public retirements, it turns out, in our area are having really, really great years, the last couple. And in fact, I think last year for one was their banner year for the existence of this company. And so that's a really good sign. I would also say that the types of development you'll see from the DBAT, from our batting cages out there, I see that there's the opportunity for indoor golf. All of those things that you're seeing are great opportunities for recreation done in a new and smart way, and in a way that gives access to people that may not be able to break off at all times and go to a traditional course. We'll also note over the weekend, on Sunday, I passed by the Brink, the small, our famous small course at Bringhurst, and it was just tremendous. There was a tournament tournament play going on, and it was incredible to see. It is really a gem to have in our community, and so there are lots of opportunities there. I think there have been a lot of events at the links as well. In fact, some of the complaints, when I go by the brink, I will go by there on the weekend and talk to people and interview them. When we did our cleanup, I peeled off while y'all were still picking up trash to go talk to them a minute. And I will tell you that the biggest complaint I heard was that there's too many tournaments at the links, and so they were being pushed off to go play at the brink. So, you know, I listened, and I asked where they were from. They were all from Pineville, which I was happy to hear. That means they're coming here to do it. And I thought that was relevant on another set of levels. But the one thing, and it isn't making fun, I say this partly in jest, is that it's sort of like if someone says there was traffic, if it's not due to a traffic jam, it's just due to more people in an area. Sometimes a mayor looks at traffic differently than a citizen. A citizen will complain, and a mayor may say, traffic's an indicator of people moving about and doing things. Same thing with the links issue. The fact that there are that many tournaments is a good thing to me out there. Now, you, council members, and especially Mr. Fowler, because this is sort of one of those your baby things, as golf has been, it is something that we also have to consider, right, Tanya? It's like Johnny Downs or any of the other fields. You have to consider use and with the public's availability to use those items that they pay for through taxes versus people who use it for other purposes that are more commercial in nature. So you want people being brought in the community, you want them staying in hotel rooms, you want tournaments. There's also an obligation to provide it for other use. There's always a balance there, and we have written policies on that we follow. I don't know that the links has caught up to some of that yet, or we've looked at it. We do it differently, right? There's an RFP put out, there's a manager, they make those decisions. Just to let you know in my life how it works, if citizens come up to me and say, we're not getting to use it, then you have to think about that. You have to consider, what, if anything, do you intervene about, or do you leave it alone?
Mayor, I hate to-
Yes, go
I
ahead.
hate to jump in. I was talking to the managers out there, the pro out there last week.
Which course?
At the links.
Yes.
When they're having a tournament. He says, we're so busy on Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, it's hard to even get a tee time. And no tournaments, just straight play. It's a straight play.
Yeah.
People coming in there.
I
They
think
go
Oak Wings, they've been busy too. I know they're going through some.
30,000 rounds
Yeah.
So far this year, something like that, some ungodly number.
So what the Pineville guys told me, and you know, I don't know this stuff. I'm not on the ground at that granularity level to know, but what they said was that historically the custom and practice had been up to but not inclusive all the way of Fridays and then not Saturdays and Sundays. So the idea would be that the tournaments, whatever type they be, end by Friday so that people would have the weekend. I don't know if that's a fair enough statement or not. I know that's what I was told. To which I said, look, the one you're talking about now that pushed you out is the Manor House. And once I said that, they were kind of like, oh, okay. So, you know, I guess this is in the category of good problem. You know, but it's also in the category of this is the job. You have to think through these things once they come up. I don't always know about it, but I do think that there was, you know, one of the guys said, well, we're coming to the council to complain, and we're going to, and I said, well, let's talk through it a second. Let's see if you can't work through this. I said, I'm not sure that's going to help because they're going to be excited about what's happening out at the links, and I don't know that a bunch of them are involved in the Manor House deal. Maybe wait a minute. And so if you get calls, I told you that there is a complaint that's happening. So
I know Sunday after the tournament, which is over around 1 o'clock, that the people flooded in playing.
Yeah.
It feels like this field always, the drinkers.
So they are good assets to have, and I look forward to having also these indoor simulators and all of that. I think that's going to be another opportunity that we can talk about here with the mall, et cetera.
And one good thing about the drinkers, it's free to play.
yeah. Well, I was gonna end on that all the assets we're talking about, are free to use. I wanted to start this off by thanking Tanya, raise your hand, Tanya Corley and Angie. I think she's off today, because she's been so busy, but, Angela Gio, Tanya Corley, is Lisa in here? Yes. Lisa Harris, who, while HR director, still runs Q, and I wanted y'all to give them a hand. These three ladies, I'm sorry. Time out, you gotta redo it. And Stacy West, who's here, who is the rogue who goes between and among all of this to make it happen. These four ladies put on something extraordinary. Q had 35 teams. So guys, that's, just to put it in perspective, that's right in when queuing was its own event out on the river when it was at its height. I think the most teams we ever had was 37 or so. So this is right at that level. I took a lot of time to interview with those guys and talk to them about, look, they told me it's the best. They praised her like you wouldn't believe, said no one's treated that way, the way they're treated here anywhere else. They told me numbers in Dallas. These guys follow this circuit. They're very serious. One guy has 50,000 followers at all times when he's actually cooking. He has his phone going the whole time. He said that in Dallas, if you have 35 teams at a single event, even there, you're at the top of the game, that you barely will see that. So this footprint, they love it. They love the downtown. They love there's a festival around it. They get to do things. I saw there was a young kid whose team was winning some stuff. He was apparently the kid in the hot dog contest. I noticed that. He's a strong kid. He was very, I don't want to use any bad words, but he was sure of himself, for sure. So this kid had a really good time, and they go around and tell everybody that. And I thought it was a spectacular event. I think that there were probably some record-setting moments of it. I also want to point out that on Thursday, we're always trying to innovate. Thursday was something to see. So for those of you who saw what happened Thursday night at Dinner on the Bricks, you got to see something special that you see around the world, and it really it gives people a very warm feeling about community. And I want to point out that all of those folks were local, from the citywide choir participants to others at Ash and from other schools and places. Miller and Hill was represented strongly. These were local folks that put that flash mob. It's not really technically, I guess, a flash mob. It's part of that. But that same thought where you would see people, for those of you at home watching, people popping out of windows and singing, and then building up to more than one sort of crescendo of music. The kind of music people all will sing along to and get into. So I want to tell you, thank you for the innovation to the team. It was just a wonderful weekend and a safe weekend, and I had many, many people tell me about the presence of law enforcement. And what I further... Yes, they were there the whole way. They were both there visibly, and I can assure you, there were a whole lot of folks you didn't see in a whole lot of different places with a whole lot of technology and ability to make things happen if we had been in an unfortunate situation. And I know that no one likes to end on a negative or really lead on it, but I will tell you that we've seen this in festivals all over. These are challenges no matter what size the city is, big or small, whatever. We're seeing those challenges. So to the chief, thank you so much for the good job that your folks did. And without disclosing all of your security apparatus, I will note that your ties to state police and all of the things you've built in your career over the years came to bear, so that the whole burden was not on APD, but as a matter of fact, the sheriff, LSP, and so many other organizations that I'll leave you to name at another date were involved. But I am aware, and I did go out and thank them. I saw fire marshal out there. Everybody was here. And I thought it was incredible. And just a hand to you too, please, for the police chief, if y'all wouldn't mind. So good job on the FET. Really, really pleased about those outcomes. So back to the local data. I won't go through it all. I've gone through it in the last two of these, the kinds of things that we look for. we'll have more, Paul. As you know, we're trotting out a lot of different things with capital projects and other things. And the numbers will be positive, and they will, I think in a good way, but, in a non-argumentative way, they're going to refute some things that are put out there in the ether that are negative, that just the numbers, math won't lie. It'll just tell you where projects are being done, what the numbers look like, how much money is spent, where it's spent, and all of that. Same with some of the other questions we've had lately about our small business and AFEET program. Going to be very happy to be putting these numbers out, and instead of sitting back on it and bragging and doing whatever, we're going to double down on this. I have a series of meetings starting this week to take advantage. Instead of saying check the box, we're going to up it and expand the opportunities for people by figuring out how we can further reach into the community. So I'm going to take a personal moment on that. I worry about that. So as a sort of, you fancy yourself as a futurist, you think about all that technology is about to bring, and you think about AI and all the things it can replace, the jobs, the people. That scares me to death. Those are jobs for people. Those are opportunities that are going to go away, or at least be done in a different way. And there are many futurists who say it's going to create new jobs for human beings, that with every growth in humanity that scared us, from a TV to whatever, all you saw was humanity pivot, and then there was a whole new thing, new set of growth around it. I don't know why this one feels different to me. Probably every generation says that about these moments, and then they find that, the Y2K problem didn't happen, right? This feels different. I think the types of thinkers you hear out there are telling you it's going to be different, and we do know it's replacing things every day. And that stuff is going to be more integrated in our lives in a way that I don't think there's any doubt that human beings are going to be challenged by, especially general artificial intelligence as that comes online. We're going to be challenged by it in a lot of ways, from safety and security to just replacement. So I think it's more important than ever for each community, and that means for us, our community, to figure out where our competitive advantages are, where the opportunities are for growth and expansion, and what we can do as a city to help that along. And we'll talk about that at a separate meeting, which I'm going to schedule following this right away. So I keep getting off the point of the local data. The biggest datum point that I think you should think about is the growth of what I would call auto sales and auto sales dealership growth. There are things you can look at, from hotel occupancy rates to that are just indicators by third parties who don't care about anything else, but they're not going to grow unless the data tells them to, and they get a lot of national data. So if you have a Walker, BMW, Mercedes, they're going to hold their dealers to a serious level of knowing what they're doing, and they're going to also get a lot of data that not everybody can get. And so when you see Kia and all those places proliferating and growing, that is a really good sign. And it also means there are sales happening. And so all of those are good indicators. I've given you several in the past. I can tell you that the types of businesses that we're seeing open up, the size and scale of some of those things, I think are going to be increasing. I think the data shows that. And I think there are some new things on the horizon that the media is talking about now that are going to offer the opportunity for jobs that are high paying. And we'll inform more as that goes through. So the other thing I think is you're seeing a recommitment of the community and really getting it about healthcare. So I've been harping on healthcare as the competitive advantage industry, if you will, that we have. And right across from the mall, right across the street from the mall, is a surgical center that's being built brand new that faces Prescott. And it is a massive amount of money going into that. And so that is a huge expansion in the Cabrini health footprint, all of that area. And so those things, that auto sales and healthcare, where we already know we have an advantage, are big things. The Allied Health building being built is a big thing as part of that. And that'll be in the downtown. So moving on. what is Reignite and what is the idea behind it? Well, before you is the corridor that is not all of Reignite, but a focused corridor. You might call it Reimagining Masonic Drive or the Masonic Drive corridor. And in that, you'll see that there are lots of assets, but they all tie into retail, recreation, and health. And that fits all of the things we've been talking about, not just today, but in this vision for what Reignite would focus on. And so on one end of the corridor, we have all of those recreation assets that you can see here, and they move down into the healthcare assets that spread all the way down. And we have the huge retail asset of the mall, but remember, not on this, behind the mall is all of that retail for blocks and large city blocks, right? And on a large corridor of additional retail. And then, if you go forward on that and you're on the Baton Rouge Highway going perpendicular to that model, all retail there and opportunities, from hotels and motels to other opportunities. That's another indicator I didn't list earlier. You look at occupancy rates, I did mention that. If people are building new rooms, that's a sign. They don't do that without a lot of data. And they look at everything from how many cars pass by to just really deep dives into who's staying at the hotels, why, what conventions are here, or what business is here. So all of those are indicators. An obvious tied in one I've mentioned before would be the the flights at both our commercial flights and at the fixed base operation. As I told you before, my dive into it was that not political, just because I think it matters to separate it. Don't give me the side of it that it has to do with immigration. Take that out of the equation and tell me what it's doing outside of those pure numbers, because you don't always know what that's going to be, right? But we need to know what industry is doing separate from that. And the numbers, all, according to the reports they gave me, are all high. So even removing that, it's very high when you add that, of course. So those are the indicators about it. The vision for this is that we would do this through partnerships. This is obviously not a city thing. And to the extent people ask you guys about that or think that, city is not offering to buy the mall. The city is not offering to run the mall. The city is not offering to own the stores in the mall or do any sort of direct retail support. The city is looking at all the infrastructure around the mall. The city looks at the mall parking lot, which, as we've said before, will never be used again that way because of how we shop now. There won't be that giant parking lot around it that has to be full all the time. It won't be, because that's not how it's done. So there are opportunities for new assets there. There's also a lot of ingress and egress around the mall that the mall owns. Believe it or not, all of their ingress and egress, their roadways, mostly theirs. And that's a huge cost to them. If we had a public purpose to be in that footprint and we took back those things in a contract, right, a cooperative endeavor that now requires the mall to spend a commensurate amount of money privately on itself to do that, now you're talking about something that makes sense. We've been talking a lot about cooperative endeavors over the past months. Most of it, unfortunately, the council has been in a negative sense from I think a lack of understanding or just a refusal to realize what cooperative endeavors do, why a city is involved with them in the first place. I do take a look at some of the comments from time to time so I can comment directly. I saw a comment on KLB today that said, roughly, how is it constitutional or illegal for the city to own any asset, speaking of Weiss's and Gold Rings? Isn't that against the law? I saw Trey's head kind of. And so someone wrote under it, well, do they have to give up Johnny Downs, Franco Hunter Park? They own assets. City owns assets all over. Do you have to get rid of all of them? That's how it read, but I'm going to spot the original writer of that point and assume that person meant non-recreation assets, although not all cities do that. So it's not what it said, but just spotting that it's not what it meant. Well, the city, first of all, someone pointed out it was donated it, so it wasn't the city doing it, but cities own many assets like that. We have tons of buildings that the city has for various reasons, including that you, the council, over the years, whether it's me as mayor or not, have sought donations of properties for the very express purpose of redoing them. I might add, it's also in the state constitution. Very clear, there's a whole section of statutory law that surrounds that, including the GATA ordinance itself, that directly says that that's what GATA is for and to do. And so the idea that the city doesn't own property or that it's unconstitutional is a little crazy. Also, remember that governments own things in both a private and public capacity, right? So the government owns roads in a purely public capacity for everyone to use, right? But governments own things in private capacities. The city hall belongs to all citizens, right? Right? But can a citizen just walk in and go in the police department and kick the chief's door in and say, I'm here, no, because government owns things, the state, if you will, in different capacities. And so we have to remember that there are things in development that government is in a unique position to help happen. And the fact that, Lisa, you were able to put all those teams out there with all of that access and get both private buildings involved and be in this large government footprint is what made that work and is what made those folks say, wow. Think about that. 35 teams here. I'm going to suggest that there's no team is one person that is in. So these are 4 and 5, sometimes a whole family or 2 deep in each of these 35 teams. All those people are here. Some stay in the footprint in a home, some in an RV, some have to stay in the hotels. There was also a large convention going on the whole time, which isn't a bad thing to have happen because now you've got other people at another event that can walk out of their event and all of a sudden there's a community festival of this size going on. I thought it was a great opportunity. So the government has a role in what we would call P3s, public-private partnerships. That role has to be understood in the context of not involving the government giving away your things for free. So if there's a public purpose and it's authorized by law, which we covered in the context of the community discussion on the KLB thread, if those 2 things are in place, public purpose declared, you really just get to that last third very important question that David and Paul know well, and that is there a commensurate exchange of value? So the government can't enter into any contract. It can't just, we're going to partner with this law firm to run a business. It doesn't do that. It has to be a public purpose. But if you get past public purpose, and certainly the renovation of buildings and refurbishment and restoration of that corridor is a public purpose. And by the way, it's been declared one. So the authorization by law has been declared since about 2009, if not before, by the city council in very detailed findings. So if that's the case, then you have to get to commensurate value. And that's where the rub is. So if someone says, I'm willing to do X in this corridor, you have to be willing to require of them a return. And let's talk about what that would be. So again, the reimagined Masonic corridor within the Reignite plan is all about partnerships, not just with the mall, but with Christus St. Francis Cabrini Hospital, Louisiana State University at Alexandria. I believe that the CLTCC is going to be looking at this based on some other thoughts I think they're expressing about expanding. And I think there's student housing opportunities, student and workforce housing, Kay McGill's, in this whole footprint that we'll be talking about. The big thing is the private sector partners. How do we get them to do things? What can the city do to incentivize existing businesses to expand, either through dollars into their rebuilding things as a capital matter, or adding employees? And so if people are willing to do that with us, that's where our incentives come in. So first, they have to be a part of the public purpose. Will they align with the economic strategy? Then we would enter into different agreements there could be multiple folks. The mall is not one thing. The mall itself has an ownership group, but certain units around it, particularly the larger ones around the mall, like Sears, own their part. So it's almost kind of like a condo in the mall. So the mall in the middle is the mall ownership group, but there are pieces, certain buildings, not all, where there's an owner of that building, not the mall ownership group. Does anyone want to hazard a guess of whether that helps us do things or hurts? Okay. So there are different opportunities for each of those things, but the big opportunity with the mall would be, to what extent will you change the old traditional retail way you did it to meet new and better experience-driven things that the community wants, which is why you should go to this and weigh in? To what extent will you do that, and then what will we do for you in return? And so we have a list of our deliverables we would expect, and we have a list of things and incentives that we would provide if that commensurate value is there. That's roughly how it works. Commensurate value, and you can do those things. As we enter into term sheets with different groups, just so everyone understands how it works, we can enter into terms. They have no binding ability until the council votes on it. So in each situation that I may discuss a deal with somebody, it will have something that reads roughly as, all material in this term sheet, you understand, in no way constitutes an agreement. It's a recitation of goals. It could be a potential development plan, and it goes on and on with legal language that tells them they've got to meet their triggers, they've got to show all of this to get a benefit. So that's an important part of how this works. But any deal, Mr. Villard, has to come back to the council. So anything that is signed and going to be a contract, we can make the MOU or the letter of intent or whatever, and it can even say that the mayor intends that if you do these things, he will present with no further changes this deal to the council to vote on, right? But until the council votes and authorizes it, there's no deal. So when you're talking to the private sector as the city, you have to disclose that up front. They understand that part of what they're doing is they're negotiating all the way up to, and maybe they're going to have to expend real funds to do due diligence and not know. So I would ask you, as we've done in the past, we may bring some early on items that say, Madam President, Ms. Perry, look at this one. We're not done with it, but we need some early indication preliminarily, maybe a resolution that the council backs the general framework, to use something you hear a lot these days. Can we have a framework to work from? And those are some smart things to do. You won't have to do them on everything, but there would be some where if it's scalable, if it's something big enough that we want that, that's a good problem for you. If we need something from you early on to indicate the seriousness of purpose of the city, that's going to generally mean a good problem, because that's going to mean it's big enough where we don't want to go down a road at all if you're not going to buy in at the end of that road. And we've done that with the projects that the city has now, although you wouldn't know that to hear some of the problems that we've been having lately. But all of those were subject to pages and pages of published documents online, such as the Weiss and Golding project. There's nothing new about that. It shocks me that there's a lot of feigned surprise about it, if you will, right? It's probably no RFP process has more published information than that one does, and more years behind it, and including two administrations, two different ones, Jeff's and mine. So that's what a term sheet you could expect. What are the kind of things we talk about? Well, they would have to tell us, how do you intend to expand our tax base? Like, what are you going to bring that expands the tax base? Because if you think about it, someone could say, well, we're going to have a one-time capital expenditure of this beautiful building. It's going to be a lot, but it's all technology inside, so there's no employees. There's two. So you're going to have one expenditure of the material. We get that one hit, but then if there's not employees over time, those are all things we look at, Jim. It's not just one size fits all. So capital expenditure, what we would call the CapEx part, may have a lot of meaning one time, but if it's only one time and it's not that large and there's not an employee increase, then the commensurate value goes down for that group, right? It could look big and sexy, but maybe it's not when you really uncover it and realize what it's about. Do you see what I'm saying? So those are just things that I want you to know that we consider when we work through it. I know most of you know this. hopefully, but I want people to understand at home, like, is the city talking about getting into private businesses? No. The city's talking about doing the things that are infrastructure related around the corridor to spur private businesses to spend more money, rebuild their businesses, or think of new things and innovate the businesses that are there. So tax base enhancement is one. The project is expected to generate estimated annual property tax of X amount on completion. We want to know that X, and we want to go do our own due diligence to see if that X is truthful. What additional revenue from sales tax would be there? We want to know that Y. What's the sales tax increase? And what is the expected growth over in true dollars over 5-10 years? We want to know that Z. What does that number look like? So job creation's one, infrastructure improvement, how much is put right in initially, and then sustainability can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. It's perhaps the most overused word in planning today, but it has some components that I think are universal. One is resilience. What is the degree to which this project can shift and take changes? Future changes that may come along in technology, future changes that could happen in a catastrophic event. How resilient is the project? Is it something that's going to be so let's think of sustainability, something we all know that we've all probably learned the hard way more than once. Someone comes to the city, media and folks in the room, and they say, we're going to start a call center at the incubator building, and we're going to employ 150 people. Does that sound good? Oh, and they're going to make over $20 an hour. What do you think? The managers are going to make well above that. I see some heads nodding. You may be insider baseballers. You can't answer. So it sounds great, right? And see, everybody in here knows the issue. But the issue is you go do that. You refab the building to fit what they need. All that happens. You enter into let's call it a 5-year lease. And they have an out if they give you 75 days notice. Does that sound like a good deal? I mean, it has in the past to cities and economic developers, and they pushed these for 10 years like it was manna from heaven. And the truth is, you do a lot of that, and the jobs don't always pay what they promise, and they go away. And you know why they go away? Because they just go to the next group that's giving incentives to them, right? And so, I don't know if y'all remember in school, when you were younger or just started out and got married, you'd get the card in the mail. This is dating all of us, and it would say 5.2% APR for the first year if you transfer all balances. And you're like, I'm on a 19.8. I'm transferring everything. Well, you understand the game, right? It's similar. So we advance all these incentives. We do all this to get them here, and they're gone in 5 years. And so what are you left with? And you've also rebuilt the thing around that. That's what I mean by resilience. Are we doing smart projects that can have a future? Or are we doing things to fit something where someone can walk away too easily? That brings up another point about the deals we'll be bringing to the council. We, Jim, Chuck, and Lizzie, look very hard at clawbacks. So what do we do if they don't meet their deliverables? So look, if you stacked all the incentives up front, they got all of their deals up front, and they could leave to go to the next good deal and get incentives again if they have that mobility, we lose and the taxpayer loses. So that's why you'll see our deals will always stack these clawbacks or escrow agreements. So you're going to get this money off of X, Y, or Z commodity, but it goes into this account. You can't access it. You borrow against it. You can do a lot of things, but you can't get it all until you've performed milestone 1, milestone 2. Making sense? So those are the ways that you're going to see this project work. Those are the way we're going to ensure the public doesn't have risk that's undue.
Just like downtown.
So we've done it more than one time. We can do it and it can be successful.
Right now.
It's happening with LSUA right now. So those are the kind of things you can expect. And that's what I meant by sustainability. It means how does it handle resilience to other things that are not predictable at the moment? And also, is this a long-term investment? Are we making an investment with something that's going to be here in the future. Okay. I'm going to take a minute and do a little bit of a very straightforward SWOT analysis of where I think this corridor is. This was published in more than one way, but most recently on April 10, this plan was presented by Dr. Lewis and the administration as part of other opportunities to pull Gata out of worrying about the Weiss and Goldring building and doing other things. It was attached to the veto matches. The council has it. You all have it. We'll put it online, but I'm not using it for that purpose right now. I'm going to use it for the purpose of going through the public confidence portion of it, because it directly ties to this, and that's what it's about. What are our strengths? What are the internal strengths we have in the community for this project? You'll see that they translate much larger, but specific to this. Community landmarks offer the potential for a return to and new uses. The Alexandria Mall, Bringhurst, the Alexandria Zoo, and others. The community is diverse with strong talent and a mature sense of place, although this identity has been difficult to define and congeal with one plan. So I kind of listed a negative with the strength, but you'll see that we reverse it later. Alexandria is not severely affected by the hardest economic times due to protective factors, which unfortunately double as a weakness too. That we don't get hit hard is also, we may not see we've seen what we've always described to you, which can be good. If you're a 4% steady growth and you can predict that and bar against it and know where it is at all times, that's not bad. Lafayette has seen some big waxes and wanes, but the big ones they've seen have been big, and if they hedge against that right, and I think they increasingly do that better, that can be a great thing. Alexandria has historically experienced consistent incremental expansion of its tax base over time. That's what I just described. That's a strength. Alexandria is recognized as a hospital and healthcare advantaged hub community. A strength. Alexandria is a timber community and wood-related products national leader. That is a strength. Alexandria is an energy innovator community. That is a strength. Alexandria is a manufacturing community. That's a strength. People talked about manufacturing being dead in some of this. It's not what we're seeing. We're seeing a return to big buildings for lots of uses, whether it's data centers and other things you're seeing, but you're also seeing traditional, true manufacturing. Not a manufactured building for purposes of simply storing data, but real automated, lots of manufacturing. So we'll see. We hope that trend continues because we have opportunities there. Alexandria is an education community. Alexandria is creating a more active development community. Alexandria is an arts community, home to notable local museums and institutions. Alexandria has and can redevelop significant quality of life assets, a lot of outdoors-based assets, experience-based, education and health-based. Smaller communities add unique value to Alexandria, such as the nurseries in Forest Hill. There's a vibrant ethnic retail ecosystem that is increasing with diverse culinary and other opportunities. The presence of the military contributes uniquely and greatly to our community's strengths. So those are strengths. Weaknesses, I'll list a few. They're all pretty evened up. So weaknesses, the community faces challenges in leveraging its diversity due to a lack of convergence. So we listed that as a strength earlier, that we have the diversity, and we've listed it as a weakness when it lacks convergence. Parochialism and lack of convergence can hinder progress. Certain economic sectors in Alexandria are perceived as risky, and that affects investment, local investment in local things. It goes on, there are 10 under there. Opportunities, positive external things. There seems to be, in my opinion, a lot of wins that are on the verge of happening right now. And to many people in economic development, if you were to achieve 2 or 3 of these big wins, it can be a tipping point, and then you see 10 and 20. And so I would just say pay attention there. Reignite is a possible opportunity. The England Economic and Industrial Development District, Central Louisiana Regional Port, Kisatchie Delta, Chamber of Commerce, all of these different things, Louisiana Central, EDO, these are all economic development opportunities. These organizations, as they mature and grow, can create and are creating new opportunities. Threats. The current credit market for this project and others may limit private developers' access to financing. That can be a push, council members, to increase your risk in the leverage proposal over there. So they say, I will do this project, but where we started in the term sheet, Mr. Mayor, our credit risk has changed. We're going to need the city to do more. So I see that a lot. I saw it on the Weiss's building quite a bit, and I would tell you that I see it mostly in just about anything, and I also see it as a strategy, meaning whether it's true or not, we see it. Because the idea is with political persons up here, you can come and try to get your vote on it by the threat of it, right? And so that's all the more reason to do those earlier due diligence models and do that earlier buy-in from you. So some of the things that we offered that don't have to be exactly this project, but that could be other partnerships. I'd hope that we had more council persons here to talk about it. But if we want to work out some sort of deal, this all went again in April. They were talk about why those meetings didn't happen, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that, maybe not today, but trying to let some of this stuff cool off like we have in the past so that we can get to what we need to get to. But we gave a listing where everything is graphed out, and you can look at the projects. We had it ranked in the order we thought. Dr. Lewis and I and a few others on staff felt this order made some sense. The idea was to do projects that were scalable projects, meaning they're big and they can be made bigger, and also that GATA or any other partner can do a piece of, so they don't have to own the whole thing and be responsible. And I see y'all yawning. So Bringhurst Ballpark was one. Bringhurst Reignite project, it's already started. That would be an opportunity. Project commenced in 2024. Formal redesign, we think, will start in 2026. That's the plans for it. We plan on having requests for information, RFPs, released this summer. That's the timeline. So in each one, we gave a project order, a timeline, and then a deliverable, and what we call SMART, meaning how we rate the project. And so SMART is an acronym that means be specific, make it measurable, make it achievable, make it relevant, and very importantly, make it time-bound. So the projects we gave to partner with GATA are SMART. S-M-A-R-T is an acronym. They're specific. They're not amorphous like, hey, this is pie in the sky, maybe we can do this. They were measurable, meaning you could show what you were going to do on that timeline. They're achievable, not pie in the sky. They're relevant. They're already approved. They're things we're already working on. They already have a high rating. And time-bound. They can start now. We need to start them now. GATA could have funded the design in that, and they could contribute in increments up to some amount, or they could wait and contribute at the end. But that would be a reformation that could happen. The next one was the Alexandria Zoological Park rebuild of the tiger exhibit. Since its founding in 1922, the zoo is an integral major tourism and local quality of life attraction. In 2024, ladies and gentlemen, the zoo had visitors from all 50 states, Guam and Puerto Rico, every Louisiana parish, and 12 countries. That's who visited the Alexandria Zoo in 2024. So we felt that was one where there could have been contributions by GATA to the rebuild of the tiger exhibit. I think we need the tiger exhibit. I think it's in the same footprint, so we're not adding capital that increases operating costs. Mr. Fowler, Mr. Lord, we're increasing. We had one, it's lost to us through damage, and I think you need that. You have to have those big common animal exhibits. They attract. We have all these cool animals there, and y'all know that means a lot. And to real zoo people that go around, it means a whole lot. But you got to have a lion, those major things. That's what kids want to see. So you got to have those things. And we can't do it with what we have. I love the tiger exhibit my whole life, and to not have that kind of personally bothers me. It's probably a $10 million capital build. We have some out money reserved. We have some commitments. I think I can get to 5 quick, but we need to think about the other 5. That could be in the Reignite bond. That could be in a lot of things, but You get the picture. That's a place where we felt that Gator could do it. The third rating we had was the Alexandria Civil Rights Memorial. We have over 500,000 that we had already committed to that, still there. You heard us talk about it with Cynthia and the council at budget time. There's a real interest in that. Again, the one that we designed, not the whatever that happened in between, that's not the same scale, that would match the Holocaust scale, be bigger and create, with everything else happening, Allied Health, some real walkable moments in the downtown. So that was another one that we offered. We did a demolition project multiplier. So this could just be ongoing, where we have major demolition issues, like the hotel that the council continued yesterday. Everybody knows what hotel that was we were talking about, right? Who can name it?
Guest house.
That was the guest house. So I never heard the name in the council meeting yesterday, but Mr. Laverdane said a friend, my friend called and we're going to bump it. So we're in litigation on this. We're being pressured to do stuff every day, and we just took that off because a friend called a council member.
That was for the fence that we had to put around it.
To keep people safe.
$30,000 in fencing that we had to put around.
So this is a group saying, we're the ownership group, we won't tell you who really owns it. You got to go prove it in court. Just a mess. There was no reason to bump that, guys. I don't know that y'all had all the information, but that's an example of a demolition project multiplier where we could use some help. That would be a great one. And by the way, that's in GATA's actual legislation that's what it's for. So it could absolutely help. And if you don't like that one for some apparent politics, that was the first time I heard that yesterday, but if that's the case, we got plenty of other places where you can spend money to take out a building that could allow it to come back into commerce. You're getting some criticism about that, but it's gaslit stuff, guys. It's made up. We want to get buildings torn out. You talk about it every week. We hear that certain groups don't want to be in the real estate business, but they're in the real estate business. Weiss and Goldring, Dr. Lewis, is no different than any other. In fact, it's a major placeholder in a downtown that is exactly what you would do with a partner that's an EDO partner, an Economic Development Organization partner. It's done in every city all over. This whole made-up thing that's somehow different here or strange, it's unbelievable that. So just a few years ago, we got criticized for not doing enough of it. So what's the truth here? The truth is it's a danger. It was donated. It could be fixed for the idea that, well, if we gave that money, it would be lost. What would we get? It's not lost. The money you get in your organization comes from others. It's a tax stream. It doesn't belongs to the public, the money. And the money is used to take something down to allow the private sector to invest and bring up sales tax dollars. Winner, winner. I wasn't going to say it, but okay. Everyone wins on that. That's what you have an EDO for. There's classes on. I mean, this is not it's not a thing, as they say. This is very straightforward stuff. But if you don't want to do those partnerships, why are they being done? What makes this so different? I think some information will come out about that. I think it's some personal stuff happening and political stuff, but that's not for today. That's a different day. Demolition project multiplier is a good thing. Don't pick that, pick somewhere else, but it sure made sense for that one. It didn't happen yesterday, and that's fine, but that's got to be torn off. That's not because of us. It's just because it's unsafe. So what makes that building different? Well, because it touches like a condo, all those buildings next to it. So whether the chief is here, whether, Sam, it's a fire hazard or a fall hazard, it's a hazard, right? And something has to be done about it. And that's a perfectly valid public purpose.
We've been sued
Such a
enough.
different, huh?
We've been sued enough.
So then I had a last one that I thought, Dr. Lewis, we were pretty innovative on, called combinative phasing, which would just be, it could be any combination of the things we just said. GATA could pick and choose it like a cafeteria plan of, I want that piece here, I want that piece there, I want that piece there. So I mean, this is a lot that went into thinking of some pretty easy ways to get out of a problem of just, I don't want to be involved in a building that is precisely the project that your legislation designed you to do. Let me be clear. But it's okay if the politics don't allow it. Doesn't make sense to those people in development, but it's okay if that's the case. But what isn't okay is what happened, and I'm going to get to that right now. I think that we have continued to try to help resolve a problem that it doesn't look like there's a desire to resolve. I will tell you, I asked for all of the contacts, Rick, you, Dr. Lewis, Gate, and everybody else to put in the record for the council to see. And I have those here, and it reminds me a lot of if somebody knows if they call you at 3 o'clock, you're still working at school, so they know they're going to get your machines. They can say, I called you back. But they know you're not home, so they can check the box, I called you back. This is so easy to see what Dr. Lewis tried to do and was not allowed to do. What's not easy about it is that it's happening among professionals. And we have people take this lectern and tell the public stuff, and it's just not the truth. And that's just not okay. Shouldn't be coming in front of the council doing that. And maybe I was too critical of the council in saying the council is too much or too easily allowing it. So I want to say a statement, and then we can pick up some of these at another time. But I think it's important to say this. Serving as local elected officials is increasingly difficult. It's probably due to the loss of traditional media and the absence of sometimes authentic community engagement, real community engagement. Hecklers are loud, and hecklers' vetoes are more powerful than any veto I've ever had. And they can come as threats to you at home, and people at home don't see that some of you get threatened. There are some folks that are not in this room that sit on that dais who get threatened a lot. And what a leader faces, not in her community of supporters, but by those who organize against her for disruption's sake alone, is something that we're seeing more of here. People curse her, say vile things to her. People want to break some people's God-given and sanctified talent and spirit. And there are threats being made to your council members. I don't know if it's happened to all of you in the room, but I've seen it happen to more than one of you in the room. And when it works, those threats, when it works, meaning the threat did its job, what that leads you to do is, the authorities, is suppress or restrict the speech or expression of speakers or officials or persons who judge things officially, rather than address the disruptive behavior. In other words, it occurs when the government or institutions inadvertently silence the many in favor of the heckler. And after all, the heckler is vetoing the truth. That's the whole point. That's why it's called a heckler's veto. Sometimes a leader even hears from well-meaning persons that are fooled by it, like, why did y'all do this? And you explain, oh, I didn't. That's not what I heard, right? Or that's not what was presented. So when there are fewer reliable news sources to cover local issues, officials struggle to communicate actions and policies. And that's what I see happening. And social media can spread information. It can polarize public opinion quickly. It can make it harder to foster honest dialogues. Genuine community development can wane. Busy schedules and disillusionment by people keep them at home. And so what you tend to hear is not from all the folks who are supporting what you do or get it, right? You hear from somebody who doesn't have those challenges at home, is able to come here week after week and tell the public something that is not happening. But for these guys and gals up here, they're hearing that. They're hearing it. Boom, boom, boom. And I don't know at home if people can sense it, but sometimes what's happening and the stares that people get, and it's it's not caught on cameras, but it's very real. And I think some people find it very threatening because they share it with me outside of here. And I think that people have to realize that the leadership here, all of these members, every single one of these 7 people are pressured by that. And part of it is, right, it goes with the job. It is your job in many ways to feel some of that pressure and not always have people in here agreeing with you. In fact, I would suggest to you that the people who come to talk are rarely going to be here to agree with you. That's why they're here. That's all normal. But there are, despite these obstacles, leaders who choose to act with integrity, even when faced with criticism. And I think true leadership does not mean engaging in a conflict purely for the sake of fighting. I think if a council member sets up a battle for all of you purely to throw you out on Front Street with that battle, when they have no interest in the outcome being one way or another, it's only to do that, well, I think that's a vain and useless act. And what I mean by that is that it's vain because it doesn't come from a good place, and that it's useless because it doesn't lead to a place. It doesn't lead to an accomplishment. So it can be trifling or trite or not. It's not a real thing. And I think that a leader can know that. And a leader may want to make a vote that they agree with doing something. They may not agree with me or you or the rest of the council on something, but a leader can vote a certain way to end a vain and useless act, because they know it leads to nothing but disruption and turmoil and a game that's being played. So sometimes a leader says no to something she may personally support because she recognizes pursuing it would create pursuit of a false or unwinnable situation or a vain and useless act. A leader knows that an outcome leading to nowhere but to sow discord is vain and useless. So what do leaders do? Well, leaders have some qualities, and some of those qualities we always see in a good leader. And we see that leaders have courage, and we see that leaders have wisdom. And courage is important. Maya Angelou said courage is the most important virtue because without it you can't practice any other virtue with any degree of consistency. And wisdom has different parts. One of them I would call discernment. And discernment is a unique thing. And if you're a person of faith, you have a definition of discernment, right? It's the gift or talent of being able to tell good and evil, right? Right and wrong. You have a real sense of being able to come across a person. If you're not spiritual, that's fine too. You still know what discernment is, right? You can walk up on a situation and by people's actions or what they say, you can determine what's really happening. Or maybe you just have a history with the person. But discernment's critical. It's a critical gift, and it's important to have these things in place. So as the presiding officer of the council, I want to express to the president that I acknowledge the challenges that she's facing. And I want to acknowledge that just like the vain and useless act of some of what happened yesterday, an ordinance presented to disregard a previous ordinance. I want everybody to understand what I vetoed. An ordinance was presented by a lawyer member of the council to disregard a previous ordinance that allowed a contract that already was signed, exists, and had at least partial or related performances. You follow me? So an ordinance passed to undo that is a vain and useless ordinance because it can't accomplish undoing the written contract. And in the first meeting, I'm trying to be folksy, and I was, trying not to let it get into a fight, I even suggested, Mr. Member of the council, you would acknowledge you can't undo an existing obligation. And the member leaned back and nodded yes. And the member even made comments. And yet it was pushed to do it anyway. That's what I think a leader, not me, another leader, saw as the vain and useless act of yesterday. So the veto was over a vain and useless act that led to another vain and useless act. And my point in all of this is that those things are being sought not for the end of getting something accomplished for the community, but for the sole purpose of counting a vote or having people stand out so they can go, you voted for or against it and you did this. And it's the same folks in the room that are doing it. And they're not doing it because it's about a community development idea, a future project. And so when we stop all that commotion and not say, let's stop, take a break. Your ordinance can't do what you're seeking to do anyway, but I don't want to fight or have to veto or do anything. Let's just all take a break and go home and figure something out. We go spend the time to do this, and a third vain and useless act occurs. The creation of a document in good faith that was met with utter and fulsome bad faith. No real intent to try to resolve it. No real intent to meet, but a series of games. We had this time, you didn't show, Dr. Lewis. Well, he's given me everything that happened. I wouldn't say that's the case. So back to my point with the media. You're not going to see that in the media, guys. You're not going to see anyone uncouple what happened because it will create what people hate the most, an inconvenient truth. I thank you for being willing to do it. The limited time that we spend on things that I'm sure you will take hits for, and that it's all contrived on your end. Same with the council president, which there was no coordination of whatsoever. I can say it, it won't be believed, but you can know it because you know the truth. And I think the president of your council should know that I don't know her full motivation of her vote yesterday. I just know that to me, it showed a leader who sees a vain and useless act and is tired of seeing her council divided. I have not spoken to Cynthia since, and I didn't speak to her before. Some of you probably have. But what I saw yesterday was true leadership. I saw courage and discernment. And I think the truth is going to play out very soon. And you're going to see all of this unwrapped before you, and you'll see what really went on with this. And I don't think you're going to like it. And I don't mean this room, I mean people at home. I think you're going to see what this was. So let's move off of that into something positive. We need to create civic gravitas, a sense of dignity and pride and unity. I didn't list all the things in that SWOT analysis. Dr. Lewis, you and I know one, and that one is we don't have a great sense of self in promoting ourselves and getting behind it. I called it a lack of congealment or convergence. And we need that desperately. And you could take every project that we don't agree on, which this exercise we had hoped to avoid, and just pick out 5 you agree on, and imagine if we all worked on those 5 things without stop. It'd be so easy to identify 5 and work on them without stop. And then everybody could check the box. But it's an election year. And I wish I could say it was only because it was an election year, but you see it year after year. Some folks don't want you to congeal and converge and get together. Some folks want you to fight because that's where they make their part of this, in the fight. So we have to balance, how much do I say? A good friend of mine in the media called me Monday, and she expressed that she did not like my veto message. She understood it. She thought it was right, but she said, you've tried so hard to not do this, you sounded like a lawyer. I read your first paragraph and got mad at you. I reread it about 10 times and I got mad at me. Listen, some things have to be legal and you do them thinking it's time to tell the story, it needs to be clear, and then you realize there's multiple audiences that look at everything we do. And so there's a thing called economy of the message, and the economy of the message you can say in 2 paragraphs. So I appreciated what this person told me. The person has since now sort of changed and has a different view, but the truth is I get it. I accept the criticism, and I want the council to know that the message was not directed at all members of the council, nor was it directed at all commissioners of GATA. In fact, the real direction is that lots of other folks who neither serve on the council nor GATA, but who are promoting what's going on. And I think if you think it was about you, if you're not sure, it wasn't. Folks know, and there are some threats that have been going on, and it started with some threats with you, Ms. Corley, and it hasn't stopped. And not all of you know this. Some of it is has never been published, but these are not okay things. There's a line between robust free speech and even I'm gonna get you unelected free speech and threatening people. And so I want everybody to remember that records are important to make, and that's some of what we do. I am always caught in this catch-22. The more I say, like today, the more I give room for, well, you're doing it too. Well, if you're saying GATA's doing it, now you're doing it. So that's a hard balance. But to me, at minimum, the council proceedings should be a place of record. I'm not saying you swear in people at the mic. I'm saying it's a place of record, meaning if you're going to present something as officials, it ought to be true. I'm not talking about whether Mr. White can take the mic and say his opinion on free speech, military, police. Doesn't have to be making a record there. He can say what's in his heart, in his mind, what he believes all day. And so can anyone else for that matter. But if you're coming as an official to present to the council as an official body associated with the city of Alexandria, it ought to be truthful. You agree? It ought to be truthful. Or at least ought to be, you intend it to be. Jonathan Goins said this, and I'll end this part of it on it. Council, I mean, you're the parent, right? GATA is created by state legislation and authorized you and you alone to spring it into existence or not. And you alone can deal with that. I have done every good faith effort I can make from the time I came back into office to work with them, and at every turn I'm accused of just bald-faced untruths. And you guys know it, and the staff knows it. I think Dr. Lewis has probably learned it over time, and I don't think he always thought that. Dr. Lewis and I weren't, he was not singing our praises for sure, but people look at evidence, look at things, and have different opinions. This thing with GATA has got to get better. It's just got to get better. And if that means that other institutions need to take a hard look, then they need to. But we're happy to show what we've done in this regard. And the threats and the accusations that are false, because it's a political year, we're going to have to set some of those records straight. All right. We went through the SWOT analysis. I want you to think about how this corridor can help us get through this unhealthy self-deprecation, Dr. Lewis, that we've talked about. I will announce that I have asked Dr. Lewis to be the civil chair, the non-elected, non-in-city government. He is not paid, despite what anyone says, to be on the community side of bringing people together in this reignite, and so he has agreed to do that. And so I would just tell all of you that we have to work through this unhealthy you think of self-deprecation like you make fun of yourself and you're not, that's okay. I do a lot of it about my weight. But there's a funny version of that, and then there's a community that downs itself every day, all day. And then there's a Lafayette that doesn't do that all day. There's a Pineville that doesn't do that all day. We've got to get all about the business of highlighting all the great things we have here. And we've got to change that now, because what you say about yourselves, that's what other people see and read, then they're not going to want to be here. And I want you to think of this past weekend and how much happened that was great, that we could be working on together. So that's where we are on the projects that involve Reignite. Our first big step will be for you to come to the mall and join us in pinning the tail on the donkey, if you will, saying what you think. You'll have a different opportunity to click, 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 those areas. That's probably not a good metaphor, in the tail on the donkey. So in a lot of these charrettes, we would have a board, right, and you'd have different areas, and you can go put a sticker, a different color that rates where you are, and that's what I mean by that.
There will be.
There will be that? Okay, good, then still the metaphor wasn't good. But we hope that people will come out and do that, and you don't, look, anything you say is fine. You can say, I mean, if you want to come to tell us the project's stupid, you can. But I would really hope that people come with the idea of, this is what I want to see there. Here are the experiences I want.
What part of the mall are you in?
Okay?
In the food court.
Okay.
Come in the food court entrance.
Food court entrance.
It'll be right there on the elevated area.
Okay, so, we are going to continue, Madam President of the council. Cynthia's not in the room, but that talk was directed to her, and had she been here, I would have given it differently, but mostly the same. In light of the veto message and any amount that I would add to any enmity or issues, I want to say that my commitment is to you members. I'm going to do everything I can do to figure out how to always communicate fully what the things are, to not, even if I think there's an ulterior motive that I can see is playing out, at least in one or more cases, it ought to not bother us to communicate if we're communicating with each other openly. There's always a push about transparency. These guys will tell you they want everything to be transparent, but that's great. But if you're talking to Rick, if you're talking to a lead in economic development and they say, if you say that we're looking at you, we're not coming, what do? We don't have an exemption like the state, by the way, guys. All of our stuff is in the open. But you still got to deal with people on that. And we deal with those leads and we try to be professional. So if I don't call you guys about every lead, it never registers in my head that I'm not keeping you abreast. I know that you have seen, Jim, since this time being back, during any events, how much I keep you guys informed. And Madam President has indicated it herself, but I keep her super informed, everything, the President. But even you guys, I will send, this is where we are on this. If there's more to do on that, I'll do more. I wish we could have better conversations about the easy truths of things like the Weiss and Goldring building. That's such an easy development unpack. And the tragedy is it's been unpacked 200 times years ago to now, and we're acting like, why would we be in this business or why would we do X? We're already in that business, and the people criticizing you for it are fully in the business of real estate. Doesn't make sense. For example, Gata started out getting rid of what? What did they buy? The Cavalier. Did they pay market price or over market price? Over market price. Michael, you're saying that, and they'll say, well, you're just administration. You weren't in the administration then, were you?
No, I came on Gata immediately after they purchased the Cavalier and tore it down. I served 2 terms as commissioner on Gata for District 3.
They were criticized heavily for that. Do y'all remember that? Still are. In fact, my media person who called to tell me she didn't like my veto also railed against the Gata, that purchase. And I defended Gata and said, I disagree with you. I think that it was a strategic move to take that property out. I'm not sure Michael thought it was a good move then, if I recall. You didn't.
I did not think it was a good deal at the time. I also did not think that us holding onto the property and not putting it back into commerce when I was on Gata was a good thing either. They held onto the property for significantly longer than they should have. And fortunately, we were able to do what we were supposed to do, is work with the city of Alexandria to put that property in use along that corridor that supported the efforts and activities there.
And I guess in fair criticism to the city, to all of us, the council, and to me, and at least 2 administrations worth of work, because I'll say Jeff and them worked hard on Weiss's. I'll say that for sure. I just don't get it. I mean, that's a textbook project you do if you were to go study economics. Tanya, we went through the course. I mean, it's just textbook. But we're not holding on to it because we want to. The simple fact of the matter is I never can get it out in the meetings because of all the stuff we've been talking about, but I have your attention today. The simple fact of our challenge with that property is different. Our challenge is no one will take it with the gap in financing it takes to get it usable without a partnership. And that's why I started out with the three things: public purpose, an authorization, and commensurate value. When you offer incentives like we all talk about we should offer, you're offering the incentive. Why? Why would you offer a private business an incentive? Because they won't do it without it, because the market doesn't bear that thing. So if the public says our purpose is we want that thing born because it's a strategic goal we have, then you have to do what's called meet the gap. So whatever the gap is, you got to fill that gap. How do we fill gaps? TIFs, RIFs, all these different things, pilots. That's how you fill the gap. In this case, the gap would be filled by literally a moving TIF, which is what GATA is. It takes tax dollars paid by third parties staying in hotels outside of the system and brings those dollars in so that it can fill gaps in projects. For it to then say, through its leadership, well, what would we do to get our money back? It's not, the money is to be spent to build the tax base up. That's what it's for. However, I want y'all to know, Ray, you may not know this, but we had always offered GATA, the real vision would be you come move in there for free. You own it, you carve yourself out your space for free, take most of the bottom floor. We've got 2 other government things that can go in there. Now you've solved your rent model in the retail side, let the other partner do at the houses. All of those were possible. I know the council keeps saying, not the council, members keep saying there's no vision for it. The published vision couldn't be more detailed. It's just whether you have the desire to do the project. But the gap is no one will take the building as it is. That's what GATA would be for, to help us partner on ending that gap. So that the criticizer on KLB's thread that said, why would the city need to be in any project where it owns something, is fulfilled. Because then after all, it's not the city's tax dollars or the citizens' tax dollars in it. It's the outside money that the hotel motel tax is for going in it. That makes total sense.
Why does the city of New Orleans own the casino building?
Why did they do the TIF that did the trademark? I mean, why did the Capitol Hilton do the TIF that does that whole area? Look, folks who want to be against you because it's political season, there's no answer you can give them. So there was a young lady who spoke yesterday who's just in this politically. She has a site on Facebook that is for political purposes. That's why she's here. She literally asked this question. I think it went something like this. Why would you need a 2-door vehicle and a 4-door? Why not get only 2 2-doors and only 2 4-doors? Is that a serious question? No, and neither were the other ones. But it's designed because someone has someone come to do that. And you know it. You know it. That's going to happen more and more. We have to be able to separate our discussions into the serious. And that's why I know Cynthia's probably at school, so she couldn't have been here, but that's what I wanted to say to her is, I'm going to do better to make sure that I'm empowering this council who is doing a great job in a tough time. I'm going to do the best I can, dead level, to make sure you're successful. All members are successful in what they need for their districts and what to do. And I appreciated the budget period. I thought every member of the council was in good faith doing their best to get through it, and I just hope that we can continue that work. Anything else? All right, thank you so much. I will announce the next one of these We'll probably focus on some technical aspects of the Reignite program. I will continue to work with Dr. Lewis on some kind of solution to the Gata issue. I will commit today that it is not our intent to litigate or do things. If that is forced upon us, then we will, but we're going to keep making outreach to resolve that the best we can. Okay? Say one more time. Weather? You want me to? Okay. So, look, I don't have it in front of me to read if they're, hold on, let me say. So, just so everyone knows, I had them run a check on my way over here, on Elliott Street, which is one of my benchmarks, because it's high ground when it looks like it did. Either something's really clogged, or there was a whole lot of rain that fell fast. So I have two things I look at around home, and they both were off the chart. According to what we're hearing, I haven't confirmed this, but Mr. Gill says as much as 4 inches in 2 hours. And so y'all just have to understand at home and here, these are those volume rains that can do that. Alexandria can push an inch an hour out of this city for 24 hours. That's a lot of saturation, no problem. 3 inches in 12 minutes, this freak rain we had after the Gustav event all those years ago, you're going to overtop everything. It has nothing to do with pumps or getting in. It has to do with the rain hit so fast it can't run off yet. When I saw the roads coming in today, I knew that was probably where we were, but I couldn't tell if it was maybe a blockage. Apparently, we had that much rain.
Jackson Street and all of.
Yeah, it was bad, but look, underneath to let you know it wasn't saturated, underneath the I-49, there was nothing. Nothing. So that just meant, Mr. Caffrey said, cancel your briefing and get your glow sticks and go out and look at it. This is the perfect rain to go measure everything. All right. Thank you.